Hello and welcome to NPC, that stands for Next Portable Console. I'm one of your co-hosts, Federico, and I'm joined once again by Mr. John Voorhees. Hello, John.
Hey, Federico. Where are you hiding that Brendon? What happened to the guy?
Well,
what's he up to? It's like we gave him the week off is really what it comes down to.
Yes.
He had an excuse. He
had a pretty good excuse, I think. Brendon, we miss you, but you will be back soon enough. And congratulations are in order.
Congratulations. Big congratulations to both Federico, both Brendon and his fiance, wife
now wife. So congratulations, congratulations, Brendon and Percia. It's the two of us. Which means we're still gonna do a show. Like it doesn't. I mean, obviously we miss Brendon. I especially wanted
the show must go on.
The show must go on. I especially wanted to talk to Brendon about the Razer Pocket Flip 2. We're gonna talk about that in NPC XL because John and I we do have quick teaser. We do have the Flip 2, and we're gonna talk about it later in NPC XL for Patreon members. But we still have a bunch of news to cover, some follow-up. Let's get right into it, especially with the follow-up, because, John, we have Nintendo Switch 2 pre-order news from the United States. What's going on?
We do. Just this morning, as we record this, Nintendo announced that they are going to open up pre-orders in the United States on the 24th of April. That is going to be right after this episode comes out, I believe. Let's look at my calendar. Yes, it's going to be a couple of days after this comes out.
Yep.
Yes, next Thursday. So I will be obviously doing my pre-order then. I'm very excited about it. They did raise prices on a few things, just on accessories, not on the consoles themselves. So it's still $449 for the Switch 2 by itself and $499 bundled with Mario Kart World. Some of the accessories, I haven't compared the lists side by side yet, but I did notice that like the camera is $5 more, and I think the Pro controller is $5 more at $85. So there's some adjustments there, but so far they look to be relatively small, they're not like doubling or anything. So that's good news, I think, overall.
Yeah, I saw some speculation that the accessories were raised because they're manufactured in a different country, and so Nintendo is trying to account for tariffs for accessories, but not necessarily for the consoles and where the stock of the US consoles were produced, like something like that.
Yeah, and it comes down to like what category they fall into in terms of, devices, because there are carve-outs and exceptions that have been made. I didn't think the Switch was going to fall into the computer and microchip and other exception that the US government had made. But for whatever reason, whether it's just that Nintendo is going to let it eat into their margins, or they think that they'll get an exception too, or whatever it happens to be, they aren't raising the prices at this point, although they did obviously say that they reserve the right to do that in the future, which, I mean, true with any, fair enough, that's true with any product. So that could happen down the road depending on where things go.
Nice. So you're going to pre-order the bundle version, I assume?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I watched that Direct with Mario Kart World this week. That game looks amazing. It's so involved and so deep. There's so much going on there.
Yeah, do you want to talk about that now?
Let's talk about it a little bit, because it really looks like a cool game.
Yeah, so Nintendo did a Direct, like a 15-minute Direct all about Mario Kart World. And they showed off a whole bunch of things that some of which we were speculating about in a few episodes ago on NPC. So they obviously showed off like the new modes that you can have, like the free roam and the knockout tour and the regular Grand Prix. They went a little bit more in detail on like the knockout tour, which would be the mode where you're racing from course to course, and you gotta keep going in between. So when you reach the next course, you're still gonna keep driving. But it's basically battle royale in the sense that for each course, only the first X number of participants in the race will qualify for the next one. So it's a little bit like an ongoing battle royale session, but with cards. The game looks super nice, and you can tell that Nintendo is really proud of the extra horsepower of the Switch too, because they're
Yeah.
constantly showing off like this views of the world and this expanse of the Mario World universe with the horizon, and you can see all. It's a little bit like
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild in that sense. Like, look,
It reminded me of that a little bit. Yeah.
yeah, like when you were overlooking the Great Plateau and you can see the things in the distance.
Right.
They're kind of doing the same with Mario Kart World. I liked so they showed off some new characters. Obviously, the cow, which will be the most important character in Mario Kart World. But there's also like some. It's nice that you can also drive as Goomba now. So the classic, mushroom enemy from the Super Mario series, plus a whole bunch of others and new items that you can use. So there's the hammers from the Hammer Bros that you can throw. There's the Mega Mushroom, which basically like you
makes you huge,
and you can drive. You can drive against other drivers. There's the Ice Flower, which you can basically throw to freeze people in front of you, and you can freeze them for a second, and you can also slow them down. Some new abilities as well. There's jump.
A feather. Did you see?
There's
the feather.
The feather,
which lets you kind of jump and float for a little bit to avoid an attack or something.
Yeah, and the feather actually has multiple uses in that you can jump to avoid like incoming like shells, for example. But you can also use that to jump and grind on walls, for example. So you can do these combinations of movesets, which I think is interesting. It looks like a little bit more involved than previous Mario Kart titles. So that'll be interesting to see what happens.
Almost like a skateboard title, really. I mean, there's in terms of the number of combos, it looks like there's a lot of possibilities there between the walls and the rails and all kinds of different
I want to see
elements
what
in
happens.
the environment.
I want to see what happens with online play, especially when you give this game in the hands of people who are really going for it, trying to master all the intricacies of the game. That'll be fun. There's also the rewind ability. So the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, this looks like Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, where you can rewind what you just did. Say that if you missed like a jump on a hidden platform or something. The twist, however, is that while you can rewind your time, that doesn't apply to the other players who are racing against you. So you gotta be. It's not like you can rewind. I mean, for all we know,
it'll put you behind is what it'll
put you behind because the other people will keep driving. So you gotta use it wisely. I guess is what Nintendo is trying to say.
Yeah.
What I found the most fascinating though is what we were speculating about in NPC a while back. Like, what are they gonna do with the open world, with the free roam exploration? And so they showed off.
I want to talk about too.
They showed off that you can just drive and explore, but obviously there are things that you can do while you're exploring. So you can collect coins and you can collect medallions. It's unclear right now, like what these collectibles will do. Is there gonna be like some kind of experience that you will be able to accumulate as you collect these collectibles throughout the world? Will you be able to spend them to like make your character better or unlock different cards, unlock different vehicles? That to me still seems a little bit unclear, but for sure now we know that there's gonna be stuff to do, like power-ups that you can find, hidden platforms that you can enable, and it looks like the world is really gonna be dense. Like there's gonna be a lot of stuff to do.
Yeah, for sure. And there's also they have these diners. They're like Yoshi's diners that are scattered throughout the environment where you can go and you can get some food. And the food then changes your outfit, so you can basically collect outfits. You might get. They showed someone getting sushi and then having Peach was in a kimono, and there were a bunch of other different. Oh, and I think they had Mario in a cowboy outfit after eating a steak, and I don't know. There are a bunch of other things.
Yeah. So it looks like this game is gonna be massive, and it's gonna be like. I think it's fascinating that for both the Switch 1 and the Switch 2, they are launching with an open world title. So Breath of the Wild in the case of the Switch,
that's true.
And Mario Kart World for the Switch 2. Not to mention the remasters of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. So if you are into open world games, you're gonna have a brand new one plus remasters of two massive Zelda titles. So there's gonna be
You could be happy with just that. I mean, I may just do that for quite a while. I don't know. I mean, there are other good games coming up, but that'll certainly keep me satisfied until the Donkey Kong game comes out in July.
Yeah, I really cannot wait for Metroid Prime Beyond. We got more hands-on, like the Nintendo Switch 2 hands-on experiences are ongoing right now, and so
Right,
we are getting
right.
first impressions and videos and like thoughts from people who are playing the games. And Metroid Prime 4, I mean, I'm hearing a lot of positive impressions about mouse mode and just being able to play
Mm,
Metroid Prime 4 with mouse mode. So I'm really keen to give that a try. And you and I, we've talked about like my new OLED gaming monitor that I
yeah.
now have. And right now, my plan is to set up the Switch 2 at my desk. So install the dock somewhere under my desk so that I can dock my
Hmm.
Switch 2 here. And I have the perfect environment to just clear my desk from my keyboard and my trackpad, just clear the desk and just play with mouse mode on a 4K OLED display. That's gonna be, I think it's gonna be fantastic for Metroid Prime 4.
I can't tell you how tempting it is to follow your lead on that, because it does. That's the thing I immediately thought of was that would be so great with the Zelda games and Mario Kart World. If people want to hear more about Federico's wonderful new display, you can listen to the latest Mac Stories Unwind. That's where we talked about it.
Yeah, I was playing some Assassin's Creed Shadows
Yeah.
today on
Oh
on
yeah.
the oh my god, it looks so like the contrast between the colorful, well, colors
Yeah, that'd
and
be a great game for it, I would think.
the
Yeah.
dark areas, like when you're sneaking around in the
Yeah.
titular shadows of the game. Like it looks so good. It looks fantastic. It's got an unpronounceable name. It's basically the latest Asus 27 4K OLED monitor. That's what it is.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, I think I'm gonna set up the Switch 2 here. I gotta decide actually if I want to put the dock like visible on my desk, like right here, right behind me, or if I want to hide it like next to the Xbox under the
Mm.
desk. Not sure. I think I'm gonna hide it just because of a cable management preference. I just want to
As
make
long
it
as it's
easy.
easy, as long as it's easy to get
Exactly.
it in and out, because that's the thing. You need to be able to get it in and out.
Exactly. So anyway, yeah, Mario Kart World, it looks fantastic. 90 days or so left until the Switch 2 arrives.
Yeah,
So
it's amazing. It's going to be a busy summer. I mean, it sounds like, I mean, you and I are always busy in the summer thinking about new Apple stuff, but we're going to have a lot to talk about on NPC too. And, you mentioned the Switch 2 versions of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom a couple of minutes ago. We did get some more news about that this week, which is that you are going to be able to repair weapons in these
mm,
games, but there's a little bit of a caveat on that. It
mm,
is going to be through the Zelda Note app, which we talked about on NPC XL last week. And it's going to be that the spin the wheel thing. It's going to be one of the, I think there may be 10 or so items or effects or whatever it happens to be that you can get using that daily spin of the wheel. One of the things you'll be able to get is a way to repair weapons, which it sounds like is probably one of the better perks you can get through that feature.
yeah, yeah. I I haven't really ever particularly minded the weapon durability stuff in the Zelda games, especially because like
That's
once
because you have all the amiibo.
I do have all the
That helps.
amiibo.
That helps. That
That
does help.
helps. But also like when you get the master sword, like that
True.
whole thing kind of disappears. And also like when you get a really good weapon, those tend to last much longer, especially
They do.
when you get into the late game stuff. Like you can get really good drops from strong enemies all the time. But the more I look at this footage of these
Oh, it's
remastered versions,
amazing.
it looks so good. And I am still very torn between playing Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. I don't know if I'll ever really be able to decide which one I want to go back to. Um,
Why not both? I mean,
I mean,
I
no,
think
no, that's
Brendan made.
that's impossible. That's impossible. Come on, like,
Well, I mean, you can dip into them at least. I mean, Brendan,
mm,
I think, made a very good case for Breath of the Wild last week, and I've been thinking about that ever since because I don't know. I almost feel like I want to replay both of those games all over again, as much as I can. I love those games. They're two of my favorite games.
I do know that I rushed through Tears of the Kingdom to finish the story more than I did with Breath of the Wild. And
Yeah.
maybe that's a byproduct of the world. I know that they made a lot of changes to Hyrule in Tears compared to Breath of the Wild. But maybe
Mhm.
me rushing through the story was a byproduct of, like, well, I know this place already, even though I played 4 years ago or something, 6 years ago, when I played Tears in 2023. So maybe I rushed through the game because I felt like I knew the ins and outs, and also like the depths. Like the depths in Tears of the Kingdom, they don't have the same variety of the overworld, So
Right.
I don't know. I feel like from a story and side quest perspective, I kind of want to play Tears more, but from a more general vibe and like spending time in the world, I maybe resonated with Breath of the Wild more. So at the
Yeah,
moment,
I think I think in a way too, the contrast of having played Breath of the Wild originally way back in 2017 might make it feel more fresh
Hmm,
after all these years and the updates to it.
yeah,
So,
maybe. Anyway, we have some other news to cover. John, what's going on with with our friends at Epilogue?
so Epilogue, they have been teasing again. This is a very slow drip with
Yeah,
Epilogue.
you're on the Epilogue beat. You've been following this.
I am the expert on Epilogue and the GB operator here at NPC, and so they teased this week a screenshot of their software, which is the Mac software you can install to play your games on a Mac, and they showed it connected to an SN operator, which is their
Hmm.
Super Nintendo version of the device, which they are supposedly going to be taking pre-orders of very, very soon. Now, they had a bunch of other news too. I have talked about this in the past on other episodes, but I guess that this update to the Epilogue software that will support the Game Boy camera is just around the corner. So that's coming. They also are adding better shader support. It sounds like they have rebuilt the systems for dealing with shaders and things from the ground up. So that's going to be available both for the Game Boy and the SNES when that SN operator comes out. No dates on any of this stuff. They do have a pixel perfect mode coming for the Game Boy, which I guess they didn't have
Hmm.
before, which I hadn't really realized. And what else was there? There was somebody asked if they're ever going to do a tablet version
Hmm.
of their app, which I thought was really interesting. They say it's on the roadmap, but
Hmm.
that sounds like it's down the road beyond the SN operator and these other updates that they're working on. And so it could be interesting to plug a GB operator directly into an iPad or something and play that way. I mean, you can
Hmm.
kind of do that maybe through I don't know. I mean, it would be you couldn't do that now because the thing relies on software on the actual computer. But it would be neat if they put out a tablet app, I think.
Yeah, I mean, technically speaking, it would be an emulator. Emulators are now
Yeah,
supported on iOS and iPadOS. Interesting.
right.
An iPad version. Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I think
mean,
that could be a lot of fun, especially with an iPad Pro or something with an OLED screen. It would be a really nice solution. This is all coming from their very sleepy Epilogue Reddit thread. It's such a slow Reddit thread that I subreddit that I have it in my RSS reader, and I read it pops up every 2 or 3 weeks. It's not like people are in there
hmm.
going at it all the time, but they do drop some interesting hints from time to time.
Yeah, it seems to like the GB operator, like it's like that kind of accessory that, like, I know, for example, that I used it once, for my Game Boy collection at the time, to dump those
Yeah.
games and to import the saves. But it's not something that I regularly use because it's not like I'm constantly collecting Game Boy games. But if you are like a professional collector or something, that I can imagine that there are people who are using it on a regular basis, right?
Yeah, or if you want to play it on a computer, I think playing it on a computer is a perfectly reasonable way to play these games, and that's another use for it beyond just ripping the games themselves. So
Yeah, yeah. Now with the summer approaching, I feel like I need to do something that I haven't done ever since I purchased this device. I'm referring to the Playdate.
yeah,
Very famously, I still have the Playdate unused on a shelf. ever since it came out 3 years ago.
Wow.
And that happened because I was so bummed out about the fact that it doesn't have backlighting. So it's
Yeah.
not, the display is not illuminated. Now, I still can't believe that nobody made any kind of accessory to lighten up the Playdate if you want to play at night. But with the summertime, I'm going to be spending more time outside. It means there's going to be more sun. So I will be able to finally play the Playdate, which is quite timely because they announced that they're finally going to do a season 2 of the games, right?
Yeah, they are starting in May. So that's
Okay.
that's pretty
See,
exciting.
they
did
also know that they got to release these things in the summertime. They know.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. And look, since you bought that thing, you've moved to a place with a nice, bright, sunny balcony. So
True.
I think that you could, it's just a matter of a habit now. Now you got to think to yourself, I'm going to take this thing out, put that thing in your pocket when you go outside just to relax and play a little bit outside. I think it's great that they're doing this because this is going to be the first time that they do a season with a large install base. They did say in the email that I got that was announcing this that they have sold over 200 and almost 290,000 units, which is a lot. So this, anybody who buys season 2 is going to get all these games, and they'll be getting them at the same time on the same schedule because they'll be rolling them out little by little like they did with season 1. But when they did season 1, everybody was getting delivery of their play dates at different times. So they weren't playing simultaneously. Now, if you, Brendon, and I all subscribe to season 2, we'll be able to kind of discover these games at the same time along with other people, which is great, I think.
Yeah. Did you see that the makers of FTL and Into the Breach are making?
Yep.
Yeah, Fulcrum Defender. It's going to be an action.
There was a little gameplay footage that was shown off too. I watched part of the video. I didn't watch the whole thing, but it looked like a pretty cool game. It definitely, the crank was right in the heart of it. So that's nice. They had 4 games, I think, that they gave little teasers about, but they tried to keep most of it secret.
I really gotta find some accessory to play with Playdate in the dark.
I thought you had that neck light and you were going to use that neck light.
I gifted it. I gave it to Sylvia's mom.
So she could read books in bed or something.
Yeah, exactly. Especially because Sylvia just wouldn't accept me wearing the neck light in bed.
You looked pretty ridiculous. I'm sure.
Yeah, I did. But now that we have settled on me coming into my office to play my video games at night, now my looks are not as important anymore, right? So obviously it's not like I can turn on my main office light at night, but maybe something like
why not? Can't you do it and shut the door?
No, I don't want to shut the door.
Oh, okay.
No, the dogs are gonna be all anxious. Why is
maybe get like a floor lamp that kind of sits over your shoulder.
No, I'm gonna get a neck light again. Like if I can, my mission is to find some kind of mounting system to put to shine a light directly on top of the Playdate, like I used to do, 25 years ago with the Game Boy. Those weird,
I know with the worm lights.
Yeah, I know.
They call them worm lights.
I had a whole contraption when I was a kid.
Oh, with like the magnifying lens and all that.
Yes.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It kind of sat up above.
Yes, it was a magnifying lens that sat on top of the Game Boy. So it was magnifying the screen, but also illuminating the screen. And you could fold it when you were done playing, and then you would reattach it again later. I felt, see, I've always been. My passion for mounting things on top of other things goes way, way back. It's like it's in my DNA at this point.
It really is.
If I can find something that I can mount on top of any electronics, I will do it. So yeah, the season 2 of Playdate.
You should talk to Cable Sasser about that. They also released a new cover that's yellow. So if you don't like purple, the contrast of purple and yellow, you can get one that matches the yellow body of the thing now too, which is I think $35 if I remember right.
Nice.
But the stats that they released too, I think, are pretty remarkable, and they were higher than I thought. They've released 262 games.
Wow. Okay.
And just shy of 290,000 units, and paid developers over $1 million. So that is pretty impressive.
Wow. Okay.
Really, especially when you think about the fact that most of these games are under $5, and a lot of them are free or $1 or $2.
More than $1 million paid to game developers. That's a pretty awesome stat. Like that's real money. That's
Yeah, because it's a brand new platform, so it's just totally additive. It's not like you're like selling on a different platform and taking sales away from an existing platform. It's brand new, so that's like found money for developers, which is good.
John, next I want to know what's this link like watch live TV on retro handhelds. Why? I remember when I was a kid. That was a different type. That was a different type of handheld. Have you ever had a portable television?
Yes.
Way
back in the day.
Oh my God! Do you remember those? I used to have.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So when I was
Sony made a whole bunch of them.
Oh my God!
I'm
so glad. I'm so glad this resonates with you. So I had this thing. It looked kind of like a Game Boy, sort of bigger screen, black, had this fold out antenna, right?
Yeah, telescoping long antenna.
Telescopic antenna. And I used to like very small screen, very grainy, low resolution screen.
Like 1 inch, maybe 2 inches. I mean, very small screen.
Very small screen. And I remember using the portable television when my mom was driving, and I didn't want to skip on an episode of Dragon Ball that was airing on Italian TV. I would watch with a lot of like bad signal, especially when you were driving.
Oh, sure.
You were basically catching the TV signal over the air in a moving car in the 90s. So I'll let you imagine how the quality, but it worked, and I could watch episodes of Dragon Ball, and the sounds would come on all like that. Like it was super noisy and distorted, but it worked. And so when I saw this link, it reminded me of my portable television from the 90s.
Yeah, it is a little bit like that, because this is an IPTV solution for handhelds, and IPTV is the way that a lot of terrestrial television gets distributed now over the internet. So you still have broadcast TV that is broadcasting over the airwaves, but a lot of those same local and live channels distribute over the internet using something called an M3U file, which is really just a pointer. Yeah. Right? It's really just a pointer to a television feed. And there are a lot of people who are deep, deep, deep into this world. I have dipped my toe a couple of times, generally found that the content available is pretty poor quality and haven't really stuck around much. But you can use an app like one that in the Apple world a lot of people use is called Channels, and Channels lets you on an Apple TV or any other Apple device watch TV a lot of times via an antenna that you get over the air television with, but you can also hook up these M3U URLs and watch that way too. And so this is really just an implementation on the Handhelds website for how you do that on some of these Anbernic devices. And they show somebody watching a cooking show on the what I think it's the 34XX. It's the Game Boy Advance looking one, which it was pretty wild. I mean, I think it's a neat project. Probably not a project that I'll do. I just don't care that much about watching TV on my video game handheld, but I thought it was clever and kind of fun to see how someone put this together.
Yeah, this is nice. Very nice. I love these experiments.
Yeah.
I also wanted to mention, I believe you covered this on NPC and on Mac Stories maybe a while back, the Razer PC streaming app. So this was announced at CES, I believe, right?
It was. And it was one of those things where Brendon and I we just wandered into Razer's.
Yeah, did you get a demo at the time?
We did. Well, no, kind of. I mean, a demo of remote play when it's like 4 inches away is not really much of a demo.
Right.
But we were wandering through, I think it was the Venetian Hotel, and one of the weird things of CS is that a lot of the companies aren't on a show floor; they're in a hotel ballroom or hotel room itself, and so we're wandering down this hotel room. It's really weird. Like you wander down this hotel room corridor, and if you picture it above at the ceiling level, there are all these placards hung on strings that say the names of the companies. So you kind of walk down, and some of them are having private meetings in there. Some of them you can just wander into and kind of browse. And we could wander into Razer, and they took us around and showed us all the things, including the Razer Blade 16, which is their really high-end laptop, which is very, very expensive, but amazingly light compared to some of their past PC laptops. But as we were getting ready to go, and we'd kind of seen everything we wanted to see, Brendon looked over and he's like, "What's this?" And there was a guy standing there from Razer, and he explained to us that it was this remote play app that they're doing, and it's based on Moonlight. So they've taken the open source project and they've kind of skinned it for Razer, and you need to have a piece of Razer software running on your Windows PC, which could be a Legion Go or it could be a regular, Windows PC, and you need their app that's a little bit like the Backbone app. It's kind of like a game catalog app that lets you collect your games in one place and launch them from there. And then you need this setup with the remote play. And the little demo that we saw looked pretty good. I have not tried it since, although it's been in beta for quite a while, almost, I think, since CES it's been in beta, but now it was officially released this past week. So I guess they've got to the point where they feel like they've worked out enough of the bugs to say it was officially released. But so there's nothing new about it other than the fact that it's no longer a beta app. But it's something that I want to try. I mean, I don't have a Windows PC except for my Legion Go, and I haven't really felt compelled to set up my Legion Go and prop it up somewhere and then play on another handheld, via my Legion Go. But I think for science, I want to give it a try at least at some point.
Yeah, and this is available on Steam, on the Epic Game Store, on the PC Game Pass, obviously everywhere on Windows, iOS, and Android. So it's basically available everywhere. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, John, I think that about does it for this week. A quick and sweet episode. On NPC XL, we're going to talk about this.
Yes.
This beautiful thing right here.
And we have two different models, two different color models. I've got what they call the 16-bit, which is the gray and purple one, and Federico's got the GameCube style one.
Obviously. Yeah, we're going to talk about the Retroid Pocket Flip 2. Did I get that right? I think I did.
Yes,
on
you
NPC
did.
XL for Patreon members. If you want, you can join. It's just $5 a month. You get a whole extra episode of NPC every single week, which is called NPC XL, and you can find us on Patreon at Next Portable Console. So yeah, we hope to
consider it a wedding gift to Brendon.
Yes.
Why not, right?
Yes, emotional blackmailing, that always works. What? You don't want to buy a wedding gift for Brendon? Come on. You know?
He's starting his new life with his wife. He could,
the guy's going to Japan for 2 months. He needs to eat in Japan. He needs to buy a Nintendo Switch too, somehow.
Exactly. But we do really appreciate everybody who has joined, and we think it's a really fun show that everybody would like. So, consider it, and we'd really appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it for this week's episode. You can find Brendon Bigley when he is around on wavelengths.online. And you can find me and Federico at macstories.net. And all three of us are on social media. Just search for our names, Brendon Bigley, Federico Vitici, and John Voorhees. Talk to you next week, Federico.
Bye.